Thanks for joining this session. And over here, we're going to talk about how you want to migrate from Appium 2 to 3, where Appium 2 was a major overhaul of an entire Appium architecture. But whereas Appium 3 is a smaller upgrade with a fewer breaking changes, which should result in a much simpler migration process. So the installation method for Appium 3 remains the same as for Appium 2, and if you want to upgrade, you simply install Appium 3 on top of your existing installation, right? But there is one major breaking change that everyone should sort of give attention to is with Appium 2, the minimum required node version was 14.17.0, but the support for the Node 14 has already been ended before the release of Appium 2, which meant that even users on an outdated Node version were able to sort of use it. But whereas Appium 3 drops support for an outdated Node versions and bumps the minimum required Node versions to Node 20.19.0, as well as a minimum NPM version of 10. So let's go ahead and see how do you want to migrate from 2 to 3, how you want to install, uninstall drivers. Is there any easy ways to do this and stuff like that? Let's go ahead and see. The first thing is what's the node version I have. Sorry. So if you see, I have node 19.9.0, right? So node hyphen v. So I sort of have like 19.9.0. So, I just said that we would require a node version higher than 19.9.0, which should be 20.19.0. So we got to first upgrade the node version before even we go ahead and uninstall and install Appium. So what I'm going to do is, since I have, NVM is basically a node version manager. So I use that. It's pretty convenient. So you can keep switching between your multiple node versions, in ease. So I already have, multiple versions of node installed over here. So to quickly, show you, so if you look through it, so we have like a 19, which is the current one in use. So I also have multiple node versions like 2022 and 22.16 and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm basically going to use one of the node versions over here. So I can say nvm use 22, right? So now it's basically it started to use nvm 22 for me. So in that case, so let's remove this. So, okay. So now when I look for my node version, it says 22. So we have upgraded the node version from 19 to 22, something above 19. So which is what is required for us. So the next thing is, let's go see what's the Appium version I have. So I don't have any Appium here. So let's go ahead and install. So first we'll go ahead and install Appium 2 so that you know how you want to migrate and things, right? So let's see my Appium version. So my Appium version very clearly says that it is no 2.19.0, right? So with that, okay, let's highlight this correctly. So it says 2.19.0, right? Okay. So now what is that we want to do is, let's go ahead and sort of update our Appium. So first thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to uninstall my version of Appium, which is existing in my machine. So once I uninstall that, the next thing that I'm going to do is, I'm going to basically install Appium. So to do that, you say npm install hyphen g. Don't specify any version. Just install Appium. So let's give it some time. So it's going to install Appium for us. Cool. So the next thing that we want to do is very quickly check what's the Appium version that we have. So if you see, the Appium version that we currently have is 3.0.2. So we have installed 2 to 3 now. Now, what's the next thing that you really want to do, right? Since we've just uninstalled Appium, but there are also going to be the drivers that you want to basically, change, right? So there is something as reset in Appium. So um, Appium, let's see in Appium help what we have. So setup, right? So Appium setup reset. So what this basically is going to do is it's basically going to uninstall all the drivers that you had with Appium 2. So let's go ahead and see what's my Appium. So that's a typo there. So Appium driver list. So you see that very clearly that we don't have any of the sort of drivers installed over here. So everything is like not installed, right? So let's go ahead and sort of install one of the drivers for us. So you could simply say Appium driver install the driver name, which is UI automated 2. Let's give it some time. So this is going to install UI automated 2 for us. Okay, cool. So now let's go ahead and check Appium driver list. So if you see now in my Appium driver list, I could see that UI automated true at a version of 5.0.3, which is basically compatible only with Appium 3. So you have Appium 3 installed and you also have the driver. And similar way, you want to go install any of these other drivers, you could basically go ahead and like sort of install any of those drivers over here. So since we have installed this a driver, so let's go ahead and start our Appium server here and see what happens, right? So let's start our Appium server and see what it does. So you could see that it says this, right? So it says, welcome to Appium 3.0.2. So that means it's picked up Appium 3. And as we go down, you could also see the UI automated 2 version is 5.0.2, right? So which is something that we really wanted. So we can also do one more thing over here, right? So I'm going to kill the Appium server. Let's stop the Appium server so we don't need this now. Okay. So another thing that we could basically do over here is I could say Appium driver list, and you see we have 𝐒𝐚𝐢 driver here, right? So let's go ahead and install a specific version of 𝐒𝐚𝐢, right? Meaning that you know something that is not supported by um, Appium 3. So let's look at that. So what happens when you have Appium 3, but you install an 𝐒𝐚𝐢 driver, or which is only supported in Appium 2, right? So I'll just take a 9 over here and see what happens. So you see very clearly it says that um, you know your 𝐥𝐢 9.0.2 cannot be installed because the server version it requires is something, you know, greater than 2.5.4, which does not meet the currently installed 3.2. So please install a compatible driver version. So this way, if your drivers don't match or is not compatible with a specific Appium version, so Appium itself is going to throw these kind of errors to you so that you know that, the driver version that I'm installing is basically not compatible with any of these versions, right? So which is very good. And it's pretty clear that you would know that okay, I'm installing a very lower version which does not support Appium 3.0.x. So let me go ahead and install just 𝐥𝐢. So let it pick one of these latest versions for us. Let's give it some time. So it's going to install 𝐥𝐢 driver over here. And you could see that it installed 𝐥𝐢 driver 10.1.0, and which is basically compatible with Appium 3.x. So this clearly shows that only the drivers which are compatible with the minimum version of Appium 3 can be installed with Appium 3.0. Okay, so we have installed Appium 3. So what's the next that we want to see with Appium 3? What is that is something which should be concerning and you feel that it should be breaking, right? So there's something called as a feature flag prefix, right? So whereas when you used to work with any of these insecure commands when we want to run our Appium server, so let's take ADB shell, right? So in the Android world, whenever you want to run any commands with ADB shell, what initially we used to say is you start the server, and then we used to say, allow I think it's insecure. Yeah, allow insecure, and you basically tell ADB shell. So now what basically Appium 3 is going to do over here is it's going to fail for you. And the reason that it's going to basically fail here is because it basically tells that, you know, whenever you are, working on with any of the flags like, allow insecure with ADB shell, so you basically need to tell that this specific ADB shell, which driver you want it to be enabled, whether you want it to be enabled for UI automated 2 or XCUIT driver or both, right? If it is both, you basically, give a star, which is a wildcard. So then the ADB shell as a command gets applied to all the drivers, irrespective. But you say that, hey, you know what? I don't want to give it for a specific, I don't want to give it to all the drivers, but I basically want to give it to a specific driver. So in that case, what you do is you basically prefix with a flag for UI automated 2. So that means this ADB shell is only applicable to the UI automated 2 driver. Okay. That's okay. I mean, it basically says, our server's already running. So let's do this. Okay, you see that now the Appium server basically started smooth, and also we could see that at this time we have two versions of drivers installed. So one is your UI automated 2, another one is your XUIT driver. And very clearly, since you've given UI automated 2 as a prefix for ADB shell, so the ADB shell command is only going to be run for UI automated driver. So whenever any command that comes into UI automated 2, or there's a session which is created with UI automated 2. And I think that's one thing that we also need to keep in mind. And there are a lot of other, internal migrations that has taken place with Appium 3, like logics like, we have moved from Express to Express 5 now. So Appium is upgraded internally, which is used for Express, and from version 4 to version 5. So you don't have to worry anything about that from an automation perspective. And there are a lot of commands which has been deprecated, and don't worry, these commands are all already been migrated into the default drivers like Java client, Ruby, Python, and not the third parties. So we will also see all of that in the next upcoming videos. Steve, what kind of drivers have been migrated, what kind of commands have been migrated, and do you really need to concern on these commands and stuff like that. So we will catch up on all those updates in our upcoming videos. Thank you so much for sticking by, and stay tuned.